Alright, in this video we are going to look at the Third Angles Theorem, and then we are going to prove it. So the Third Angles Theorem states that if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angles are also congruent. So over in this picture, if we've got B and E are congruent, and A and D are congruent, this theorem says that it must be true that C and F are congruent as well. Let's take a look at the proof. Okay, so we are going to start out with A and D congruent, as well as B and E congruent. I'm going to prove that C is congruent to F. So let's start with our given information. A is congruent to D, and B is congruent to E. That's given. We don't have any shortcuts yet. This is going to be our shortcut. So we're going to have to change this from congruence to equations. And we'll use the definition of congruence for that. So we get measure of angle A equals measure of angle D, and the measure of angle B equals the measure of angle E. We are going to want some more equations. And we can actually use the triangle angle sum theorem, or the triangle sum theorem, to write some more equations. So pause a second and think about what one of the equations we could write using the triangle sum theorem. Alright, for the first triangle over here, we're going to be able to say that those angles add up to 180. So measure of angle A plus measure of angle B plus measure of angle C equals 180. And the same thing for the second triangle, measure of angle D plus measure of angle E plus measure of angle F equals 180. So this is the triangle sum theorem. And we've got a bunch of equations. We can now start substituting and get that the measures of A, B, and C are equal to the measures of D, E, and F all added up, because both of these triangles add up to 180. So we can set this expression equal to that expression. See if I can write small enough here. So measure of angle A plus measure of angle B plus measure of angle C equals measure of angle D plus measure of angle E plus measure of angle F. Just got it. That's our subs. Alright. Next we'll be able to subtract some stuff, because on both sides here we've got A is equal to D, their measures, and we've got A on one side, D on the other. We'll be able to subtract those away from each side. And we also have B is equal to E, and we've got B and E on each side. So when we subtract, what we're going to be left with is just measure of angle C equals measure of angle F. And that's the subtraction property. Subtraction property. Now let's take a look back at what our goal is to prove that those two angles are congruent. We have that they're equal. We can now say they're congruent. While I write this, think about why they are congruent. So they are congruent by the definition of congruence. And that's the proof. Peruse it at your leisure.